So finally, 3 weeks after Washington fired Ron Rivera, they have finally hired a head football coach, and that person is none other than Dan Quinn. Now, if we're being fully honest with ourselves here, he definitely was not their first choice, but as I've said already in the past, he kind of was the safe choice. And it also intrigued me with the thought of hearing Adam Peters and Josh Harris in their press conference say that they'll be looking for a coach that would be a leader of men. That kind of, I don't know, that kind of stuck with me a little bit. And I continue to remember that as I saw these candidates that, that were on the list. And then I hear, other people talking to me about who they think is going to be, the coach. And then, of course, I developed my thought pattern of watching certain teams this year. And, of course, everybody has their favorites. But in the end, Dan Quinn is the guy they choose. Now, this is not a guy that's, new to the scene by any means. He's been around the block, and he actually has a pretty decent resume. I know some people love to point out what happened in Atlanta with the Super Bowl, and I know that there was a lot of talk about how Shanahan left and then he went 0-5 and got fired. Those are realities that, obviously none of us can change or anything else. The fact of the matter is, the last 2 years, he's been over in Dallas, which I know is sacrilege in a lot of people's eyes to have him come to us after being in Dallas. But the fact is, he's been in Dallas the last 2 years, and he's actually got that defense on point. This guy's really good at building the staff out, so I'm really interested in seeing which direction everything goes in. I know in the past I've heard Al Harris, a guy that's, that was over there in Dallas with him, he has said that he's going to follow wherever he goes. I know I saw a report over on Twitter saying that Joe Witt Jr., the Cowboys passing game coordinator, was expected to become part of the Commanders coaching staff as well. And I expect others to be named in the coming days. Hell, maybe even the coming hours. Because whether or not he was our favorite choice or whether or not we particularly like him in the moment right now, it appears like he has a lot of folks that do like what he does and what he brings to the field. Now, this right here will probably fuel all of the people that already think that Ron Rivera and Dan Quinn are like the same person to begin with. But with Dan Quinn taking the job in Washington, now Ron Rivera might be in play for the Cowboys defensive coordinator job, which I'm not certain he'll get, because I got a feeling Jerry's going to try to do something with somebody over there and put somebody in that spot so he doesn't lose the whole staff. Yeah, but Dan Quinn, the pride of Salisbury, Maryland, the Salisbury Seagulls, as this picture right here shows you. This is a guy that got his start as the defensive line coach, William & Mary. And he moved on to VMI and then Hofstra, and then got his crack at the NFL with the 49ers. And then, it kind of just goes on from there. He was one of the orchestrators of the Legion of Boom. Now, to me, the place where you could really compare him to Ron Rivera is, the regular season record. And his team did lose in the Super Bowl, which is the same thing with Rivera. It kind of gives you that, have we been here before moment. But I believe the difference here is that Dan Quinn is being brought in to be the head football coach and not being brought in to be sitting in a coach-centric environment. And I also believe that Dan Quinn is a better coach than Ron Rivera. I think the bigger question that really should be popping up in people's minds right now is, who will they be getting as the offensive coordinator now? Could it be Eric Bieniemy, or could it be somebody that Dan Quinn picks, handpicks from his past? Ron Rivera never quite got that right. It's important for Quinn and Peters and company to come together and really get the right guy in place as the offensive coordinator. But look, folks, I know your PTSD from this team and all the decisions over the last 30 years has already got you thinking one way, and you're already thinking in your mind, this is not a good move. Just give it a little bit of time, see what they build from that point out. Realize this team has a ton of cap space, a new owner, and a group of owners, I should say, that want to win. A new up-and-coming GM, 5 picks in the top 100 picks in the draft coming up, 9 picks overall. And honestly, I would probably expect to see them probably wheel and deal and maybe even get more picks. I realize that there's nowhere to go but up from here with this organization, with this team as a fan. I realize that when you're at the bottom, you got nowhere to go but up. So with that said, for the first time in a long time, I'm going to put my faith in the process, as they like to say, or I'm going to put my faith in the system, in the setup. I'm going to put my faith in Adam Peters as the GM of the team. I'm going to put my faith in what they're trying to do here. What you guys have to completely understand as well is now that you have a GM in place that's a good football mind and knows what he's doing, if your head coach for whatever reason doesn't work out, you pick another head coach. You have your football guy in place. You have your personnel department completely rounded and changed, and a new path has been created. Let's just be honest for a second. You know, some of us, that feeling that we get when this team hires someone, that retracted feeling, it's because of what's happened in the last 30 years. That shit's over with, y'all. Once you move away from it, it will feel a little better. I think maybe the fact that the team had such a trash year coming off of the high of getting rid of Snyder, I think everybody has it in their brain that it's always going to be this way. Oh, it's just the same. It's just the same. But it's not. There's nothing that's the same. I mean, you got a new ownership group, like I've already spoke about, 14 owners. I mean, holy shit, there's a lot of money going around in that room. Now, I know the salary cap is what it is, but when you start, thinking about what the team needs as a franchise and what they need as a franchise to move forward and build something that's much better than that crap that Snyder was putting out there and was putting, over there in Redskins Park, or whatever the hell it's called nowadays. They have to rebuild basically from ground zero. While Snyder was bilking us for everything we're worth, these guys have enough money to come in and try to reestablish this setup. Then you go out and you get, the hottest guy, in the business for the last 2 or 3 years, the guy that teams have been wanting to get, and he hasn't even been taking interviews with them. You get him. You smash a grand slam getting him, by the way. And it's pretty obvious that they had their eyes set on one coach who decided that he wasn't going to leave Detroit. That doesn't mean that Dan Quinn can't be a good coach. And everybody's got their minds stuck on what happened to the Cowboys in the playoff game. These two teams you're talking about, the Falcons and the Cowboys, you guys, can you see a relation here? Both of these teams are kind of cursed in the playoffs, y'all. Have y'all not been seeing this? And I'm not trying to compare them to our teams. I know there's going to be somebody that jumps up and tries to say, oh, there's no comparison to our team and those two teams. I'm not comparing them to those, our team to those two teams. What I'm saying is those franchises at this point right now are kind of cursed in the playoffs, y'all. So are we going to put all of that on Dan Quinn? So nothing gets put on the players. They don't go out there on the field. Dallas doesn't choke at all ever. The Falcons don't choke at all ever. It's all on Dan Quinn. Come on, y'all. And truth be told, before the Cowboys had their moment in the playoffs this year, this guy was looking at being probably the top, if not the top, the second best candidate in the field before that happened. And I think a lot of franchises decided to go young instead of picking somebody that was, a proven leader or whatever. They want to get a guy in and try to build their culture around a young guy. There's no guarantee that will work either, by the way. It's just something that's definitely trending right now. And it's something that actually I was hoping for. But that doesn't mean that hiring Dan Quinn will be a bad move. It just means the team went in a different direction than what I wanted them to do. And I mean, I'm a grown man. I could deal with that. But I'm going to support this move, and I'm going to say right now that I think this is actually something that could be really good for Washington's defense. Let it play out, y'all. Let me know what y'all thinking down in the comments. Y'all take it easy. Peace.